Good afternoon, everyone. We're just giving a little more time for the rest of the group to join. Hi, Alejandra, how are you?
Hola, hi.
Hi. Let me make you co-host. And then, great. I will stop sharing my screen if you would like to start sharing yours.
Cool.
Great, we can see you well. Thank
Are
you.
you seeing the right
Slide.
part of the presentation or the other?
I can see also your notes and the next slides. I see all the whole.
1 second.
Sure.
There we go.
Yes, great. Thank you. We can see it really well. Okay, we're just going away for a little more for the people, for the rest of the group to join a couple of minutes and we might begin. Thank you, Alexandra.
Elías, haz pipí. Que haga pipí cuando llegue.
Well, I believe we might begin. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. And it's a pleasure to me to present you today Alexandra Gomes, a medical doctor from Colombia, who also did PPCR in 2012. Actually, we did it together. And then she did her internal medicine residency in in Miami, Florida. After that, she moved to Cornell and then to Sloan Cancer Center. Now is back to Cornell as an assistant professor of medicine. And today she's joining us to guide you and talk about her residency and fellowship path, share her experience and the challenges, and also remember that all of us are here connected with that idea that we do networking, and you can also learn from her and ask about her experience and guide you throughout this journey. So Alexandra, thank you again for your time. It's wonderful to have you today. I know that you're really busy, and it's an honor to invite you to these PPCR talks again. As mentioned before, these alumni, PPCR alumni, has a beautiful story, and they also want to be with you to guide you throughout this journey. So welcome, Alexandra. I'll leave you out to the group, and I will be here to help you.
Thank you, Alma. It's always nice to be back. Hi, everyone. So as Alma said, I did this course in 2012. And this course is still very dear to my heart. I think many of the things I learned, I still use. So with that, I'm going to do another version of this presentation that I've done throughout the years, but hopefully it becomes a little bit more interactive at the end. I think I want to hear what your questions are and if there is anything I can share with you. So I don't have any real disclosures with this talk. But my disclosure is that this is my experience and my experience only, and also I'm a BMT fellowship director. I also review residency applications and fellowship applications. And I think that now I've learned a little bit more about what programs look and what people need in order to match to a US program. But not all routes lead to Rome. So I think that everyone has a different path, and it means that there's different skills and experiences. So this is what my CV looks like. And I think Alma said a little bit like I did my medicine, I did my medical degree in Colombia. And even when I was there, I was always interested in the idea about going away for my residency and fellowship. I just never thought at the time that that would mean moving to another country forever. I think I was just interested with the idea of training away. I did my social service year. In Colombia, we have to do a year we work for the government, and I did that for a year, and it was one of the most enriching experiences of my life. I got to work with a community of over 10,000 people and be the primary care doctor, and I learned a lot of, I don't know what it means to be like a doctor with like very limited resources. And then in 2012, I decided to do this PPCR course, and I took it as an opportunity to do some research and while I was doing my application. And then I ended up in the internal medicine residency in Miami, then oncology, did transplant. And for the past 3 years, I've been at Cornell working with a stem cell transplant in leukemia. But like really what people do not see is like all the little roads that you go in order to get where you are. And I think like this path is boring. I think that a little like success is all the little roads that we take along the way to get where we are. So I think that when I do this talk, I usually tell people like, there are certain things that you have to think about when you're considering moving to the US to do your residency outside abroad. And like the first thing is know your specialty. The second is like how you should think about the USMLE. The third is like build your skills. And fourth is mentorship. I think my biggest things are usually number 3 and number 4. But I'll go through them and hopefully this is going to lead to some points for discussion. When I say know your specialty, I mean not all specialties are the same. So if you see in like red, it's like internal medicine is right here. I don't know if you can see this here. You can see here. So internal medicine is right here. And internal medicine, like they had in 2022, almost 3,500 applicants that were like foreign, like international medical graduates. So it became like 46% of all the internal medicine all the internal medicine residents that matched in 2022 were from an international medical program. If you look at dermatology, unfortunately, it was only one person who matched that year. If you look into radiation oncology, it was only one person that matched that year. Plastic surgery, 11 persons matched this year. So when I like do these graphs, I'm not saying like you will never match in dermatology or you will never match in radiation oncology. But if you're the one person that is interested in this specialty, I think you really need to know what you're competing with and prepare yourself so that you can be a very good candidate for that match. So nothing is impossible, but know the challenges. The road for non-IMG friendly specialties will need quite more effort than if it's an internal medicine program where 46% of the people are expected to be international medical graduates. So there are beautiful stories from people who have matched in neurosurgery. There are beautiful stories from people who have matched radiation oncology, but you have to do the extra work. You have to go, like, you cannot pretend that if you're gonna come to do radiation oncology, you're gonna be off with your medicine degrees and then very quickly match with radiation oncology. The people who match are people who dedicate some time to actually get to know programs, develop their skills, do research with the people. And finally, after spending a couple of years working on getting admitted, then they're finally getting admitted. And you need to prepare for it. The second thing is how you should think about the USMLE. And the reason I bring it up is because I think people, when they're like considering the fact about going to the US for training, they're always very like fixated on the USMLE. And the USMLE is only a way of looking into your CV or not. It does not mean anything else. I think like the scores are one of the main gateways. What do they mean? Like most programs, they have, some programs review all applications regardless of your scores. Some programs say, I'm going to review this application if they are above this score. And some programs say like, well, we don't really care about the scores for review, but we can add a point system after they're reviewing the applications. And if your scores are low, you're going to have less points in that review of your application. But what does it mean? So like this is the US grads, and this is for people who are applying for internal medicine. So people who are applying for internal medicine and got a score that is less than 200, you can say like, well, definitely a lot of them did not match, but there were some that match, right? But if you actually say like 250 and above, this does not mean that you will match. There's like a lot of them match. There's a minority that unfortunately did not match, even though they got a score of 250. If you look for international medical graduates, of course, if you have a high score, the chances that you will match are really high. But there are some people that unfortunately, even with those big scores, they don't match. And there are many reasons why that happens. So, and also here, like if your scores are like in the lower side, I don't want to get you discouraged, but this means that you will have to compensate for that low score. Because at the end of the day, it does not mean that you're not going to get into a residency, but you'll have to show the program in other ways that you're worth it. So this, of course, is different if you go from more like a competitive specialty, so general surgery. Chances of matching as an IMG are lower, of course, but even if you have a really good score, chances are almost as equal as not matching even with those scores. So your scores matter to get you into a program. If you have low scores, we have to compensate for it. And even if you have a great score, do not think that that's it. So most programs have a cutoff to review applications. A less than average USMLE is not the end of the world, but a good USMLE score does not mean success. And then the third thing is, the most important thing is build your skills. And what is this? So when you're applying to the US for a residency fellowship training, it's not only about your scores, but like it's about what are your skills that you have so far and how you're going to show them forward. So the fact that you're all here doing the PPCR means that you're already thinking about those skill sets. So it's not about the USMLE and it's not about the rotations. It's about many different factors. So one of the things that they have is you should do clinical experience in the US. So everyone who is thinking about going to the US, hopefully you're going to have at least 1 or 2 rotations when you come here. And when you come here, I don't want you to think like the only reason I'm coming to the US is to get my letters of recommendation so that I can apply. I want you to think more like this is an opportunity to meet potential mentors. It's an opportunity to get to know the system. It's an opportunity to be a team player and get networking done. It's an opportunity to improve your skill sets as a doctor and as an international medical graduate. And it's an opportunity to also evaluate potential programs. So your objective when you come to do clinical rotations here is to be better than the intern on the team. Most clinical rotations are going to accept physicians as observers. So unless you're coming as part of your medical school training, it is very hard for a program to accept you as a clerkship rotation. But even if you become an observer, you will have an opportunity to be part of the team. So when I meet potential mentors, I mean, like, don't come here and on day one say, like, I'm just here to get my letters of recommendation. That does not speak well. I think that you have to show them that you're very interested and you want to learn from them, and that you want to take this opportunity to learn. So get to know the system. I can tell you the first time I came to the US for rotation, so I spoke English, it's okay. But I decided to read a chart, and I remember I was like, there was a whole sentence and a whole like paragraph of acronyms that I did not understand. Like, doctors in the US can have a whole history in just like abbreviations. And even if you are speaking English, if you read your medical text in English, this is going to take you some time to learn. So as you decide to come for your rotation, the idea is that you start getting to know how the system works and how is there interactions between working with interns, how's the interaction between working with residents. There's some programs that have physician assistants. Not all the countries in the world have physician assistants, and they have different different roles, and so I think it's very important to get to know the system and hopefully get those skills so that when you actually start doing your residency, you're starting in a more balanced way compared to your peers. Of course, you want to be a team player. So I think that if you come here to do a rotation, you want to make sure that you are as helpful for the team as you can be. You have skills, you have probably more experience than maybe of some of the interns that are in that rotation. But the idea is that you can work well, because if you're a team player, don't forget that your interns and the residents that you're on, maybe your chief residents by the time that you're applying, maybe actually part of the committee when the time that you're applying. Maybe the people that can tell the director, hey, this person was amazing when I worked with him. So make sure that you get that opportunity to be a team player. It's also an opportunity to improve your clinical skills. As I said, we're all learning. So even though I think I came a couple of times to do hematology and I was doing hematology, I think I learned different things from just coming and doing a rotation in the program. And it's also an opportunity to de-evaluate other programs. I think that depending on your specialty, you're not going to just say, I want to match wherever. You have to be strategic of where you're going to apply so that you have the best chance of matching. And there are some programs that are more IMG friendly. So I can tell you that my experience, I don't think there were a lot of fellows at Cornell when I started that were international medical graduates. Now they have great experience with international medical graduates, and half of the fellows are IMGs. So I think that as you go into different programs, always look at your peers, the people that you know that have been in different programs, and know how do they work. This is a good program that you can do. And your objective is to be better than the intern. When you come here and you're rotating, the idea is that you are as helpful as you can be. Even if you're an observer, a lot of in medicine is discussion. Of course, if you want to be a neurosurgeon or a surgeon, you will not be able to show off your skills, but you will show off your knowledge. You will show off that you are reviewing the literature. You will show off that you can have a discussion based pros and cons. You can show off about intelligent questions. So this is an opportunity to be the best version of yourself in that specialty so that you can hopefully get good letters of recommendation, but also all the additional things that come from this. So this is your learning skills that you will use later in your life. The other part of building your skill set is you need research skills. And research is something that it's not easy. I think we all know that if we want to do academic medicine and we want to match somewhere, or we want to be an attending, we want to be in an institution, we have to do research. But research is complicated. I have worked both in the lab with mice and I have worked in clinical research. I can tell you that when I worked with like mice, I remember I did one like 60 bone marrows in one day, and like all these little mice. And at the end of the year, I still had like 10% of the research that I was supposed to be doing, like that I was imagining I was going to be in my project. Because I learned that when you do lab research, you like initially I would thought like I was thinking like Monday I'm going to do an experiment, Tuesday I'm going to review the results, Thursday, like Wednesday I'm going to meet with my PI to plan the next experiment, and then Thursday, Friday I'm going to like make sure my presentation is updated. And then I realized that Monday I do my experiment, Tuesday I repeat my experiment, Wednesday maybe the same experiment again, and then the next week I'm still doing the same because it doesn't work. So you can decide to come to the US for a whole year, and the research that you're assigned to does not lead where you expected it to be, publication in a Nature publication. But do not get discouraged. I don't think that that's the idea of doing research, and there are many ways, like many things that you can learn. Also from clinical research, I think I've had the experience of doing retrospective research, but now I'm a principal investigator. And I know that getting one study approved by my IRB and negotiated the contract and make sure that everything is ready to enroll, it takes a whole year. So when you decide to come and do research, like you do not know what you're signing up for, but the goal is to get the skill set. So even though you join a lab or you do some research, clinical research in the US, or you decide to stay home and you do lab research at home or clinical research at home, know that you do not only show the outcome of your research, you also have to show what you've learned. So maybe what you learned during this time was you learned how to do flow cytometry, and now you have a better understanding of how to think about flow cytometry, like or on the risk about doing flow cytometry to measure leukemia at the end. Maybe you have a better understanding of how to do a statistical test, and then later in life you can do better job at building your, it's like doing an adequate sample size so that your study is meaningful. Maybe you do not have, like, even if you do not get a paper that it's like a high impact journal, but you had a little paper that is somewhere, but maybe next time you can tell someone like, I know how to do the stats and I can work with the statistician so that we have a better sense of how to lead this project. Or maybe you already know how to build a clinical database, and you spend, like the first time you do it, you spend 6 months doing chart review because every time you chart review, you forget one variable, and then your PI tells you the next time you have to add it again at the end. But maybe the next time you do it, you're gonna like spend a lot of time building your database before you do data collection. So the point is, everything you do has a skill, and this skill you'll be able to show later in life. So whenever you're planning to come to the US, do not underestimate the skills that you're getting by doing something. So de-emphasize publications, because there's many things that like get involved in publications. I think that people are like thinking about publications so much that now we have these gradator journals that want you to publish anything everywhere because everyone knows that we just want to publish. But think about more like building your research skills so that later, as you evolve in your career, you can put this research into a different practice. And I can tell you that all the skills that I learned during the PPCR course in 2012, I still use right now, and I use it during my clinical research career, when I work with my collaborators, when I work with my interns, residents, and like fellows that work with me. I think that those are the skills that help you build your CV. So how do you build research skills? You do something like PPCR, you get background in clinical research, you conduct trials, you do a lot of statistics, and never forget that knowing statistics is enough. I think that the classes of the statistics I got with PPCR were the basis for me to learn more and more and more every time. Manuscript writing is something that is super important in academic life. I've taken so many courses and classes, and it's not only manuscript writing, but grant writing and how to communicate your research and how to do a good presentation. It helps work with how do you work with regulatory agencies, like what can you do to work with different institutions. So after my life, after PPCR, I've taken so many statistics classes. I've done manuscript, I've done grant writing. There are ways to go into Young Investigator Awards. So don't forget that even if you have if you have a research project that you do during your PPCR, maybe you can use this research for something else. I think that after I got very good working with Stata when I was with PPCR, I got into R, and I've been spending a lot of time over the past few years trying to learn more and more R. And this has been very important for my career in hematology and oncology. Laboratory skills, I can tell you that even though I spent a lot of time in the lab, I decided that this was not my life. But all those skill sets that I learned in the lab has made it easier for me now to collaborate with lab researchers. Knowing and understanding what they do and how they think has made me realize how I can work with translational scientists and basic scientists, and we can work together. Because academic life is more about collaboration. If I go more into the research skills, I say research requires sacrifice. This was a very important talk with Dr. Teferi, who is at Mayo Clinic, and he did a beautiful presentation. He says, research requires sacrifice. So if you come to the US and you want to spend 3 months doing some research, and the person that you're working tells you, I think we should finish this manuscript, or you have this opportunity to do it, know that he or she is testing you a little bit. And everything is going to require a little bit of sacrifice. As I was in training or trying to get into the US, there were a lot of research that needed to be done in my own personal time. As I'm getting a little older, hopefully not too old, but I think that my expectations are different in the sense that I can decide to do research on the weekend or spend time with my family, but we all need to have what our goals are in life. But if you're trying to come to the US and you're trying to have certain amount of time that you get either by doing a rotation or having a research mentor, know that this is your best time to show off that you can do it. And research requires sacrifice. I don't think that any research is easy and it requires a lot of time. So make sure that if you decide to come to get research experience, know that you have to do a little bit of sacrifice to get things done so that you can show something at the end of what you did. Even if there's not a manuscript, you can tell them, I learned to use R. I learned to work with databases. I learned how to grade adverse events, and now I'm an expert grading adverse events. I work in data reporting. I've worked with clinical monitors. All of these are good skills, but you will need your side. Other skills that you can invest, clinical, like I talked about epidemiology, stats, writing, EndNote. Don't forget about EndNote or other reference managers. I've seen a lot of people that still try to do references by themselves. And there are many ways to do this, but please do not do them by manual. And this is another skill that you should learn. If you decide to work in a basic lab, like if you decide to say, I'm going to come for a year and work in a lab and dedicate myself to the lab, create a plan with your advisor and create a plan with clear objectives. Let's say you're going to do my mice project that I was supposed to be done in a year and a half, and we did this during fellowship. Know what cuts you should have by which date, and if things do not go well, what should be your next step. It's a time investment. So if you're going to come to work with a lab, a lot of people are hired without having funding for them. And I always feel bad about it. And I am the type of person that says, think very closely before you commit to something. There are many people that are going to tell you, come and do free work. And this is going to get you and you think that this is going to help you get where you are. But I would also say, make sure that it's doable. People tell me all the time, I'll come to New York and work with you wherever. And it's like, New York is the most expensive city in the world. I think people even have a hard time living here, even if they have a salary. So we don't have funding for your work that you're going to be doing. I'm going to be less likely to accept you. If you decide to come, also have a plan of what's the investment. Like you can work with different PIs and say like, I can work for like 6 months, a year, and then afterwards we can negotiate this type of resources. And some people will say like, unfortunately, I cannot fund you. But be very mindful before coming and signing without having a clear discussion of what are the costs of living in the US while you do your project. No, you do not necessarily need to spend time here before matching, but definitely if you're going to spend time here, know that this is going to be an investment. As long as like you know and that you're clear on like what is going to be the expectations, I think it's okay. But have these discussions before signing up. Make sure you do any seminar, any courses, any opportunities for postdoc. Try to apply for grants. There are grants for people who are not from the US that can have funding for people doing research in the US. And the point of all this is that you will create a story with your skills. So it doesn't matter if you went to a lab and you worked for a year, and unfortunately the experiments are not completely finalized and it's the time for you to apply. If you know how to tell your story, if you know that you can say like, I joined this amazing lab, which was doing so much interesting. And then during this time, I was able to get this skill so I can manage R and I can manage clinical databases. I can do all of this. And at the same time, I was able to work with different physicians for different specialties. And I was able to learn about this and this and this. You'll be able to create a story in your CV in ERS. And this is going to be helpful for your next steps. People do not always need a publication to match. Next step of building your skills, don't forget about networking. I think you have a great opportunity in PPCR to start some of the networking, but be resourceful. So join professional societies. So if you're a hematology, I would say you should join the American Society of Hematology. You should join the American Society of Oncology. You should join the Society of Immunotherapy. All of those have courses. All of those have resources for different people in different career paths. So for example, there are grants for people from different countries to come to the US for a 1-month rotation while everything is paid. You can find grants to do research courses, and those can help you find people in your field. So if I'm a hematologist, if I want to do hematology and you join the American Society of Hematology and they have an event for young physicians and you meet different people in different programs, later you can contact those program directors and say, I'm very interested in joining you. And this is going to be helpful for you when you apply. Same thing for internal medicine, same thing for different lessons. Don't underestimate your peers. So your peers are also your mentors in different levels. So peers that have gone to exactly where you've been are going to be very useful for you. So make sure that you get to talk to people and learn what they did. For some people coming to the US for 2 years and working in a lab worked great. For other people working in a clinical research setting worked great. Some people decided to do the clinical research back at home with a very productive mentor, while the 2 people in the US were trying to get some publications. The people who stayed had 3 publications in Nature.
Oi, tá no lugar.
Por que que entrou
I think someone needs. Okay.
I just close it.
So just use your peers. Be resourceful. I think that we all need to learn where we get our networking done. Twitter is a great place to find networking, to do network. I think that medical Twitter is a real thing. I'm not going to comment about all the things that have been happening with Twitter, but I still think that a lot of medical networking is done in Twitter. If you're not familiar with it, I think you should like join and start following people in the areas that you're interested. Like if you're in dermatology, start looking for Twitter feeds on dermatology and international medical graduates and medical students association. And there's going to have a lot of maybe advice on how to match or what to do. And I think it's a great source of information. Facebook has a lot of groups on how to apply for residency and fellowship. Again, use it as examples of how people were able to do it. Doesn't mean that you need to follow exactly the same track. And don't forget that we're all doing network at every stage of our career. So even in like, I've been an assistant professor for like 3 years, and I just went to a very nice meeting on Friday where I did networking for people who are older than me, like a couple of years, and we talk about how do you advance in academic medicine and what should I start looking forward for the next 3 years, and where do I get the right resources, and how can I invest more, like how can I protect my time more to do certain things while not giving away my clinical skills. So all of it, like this is all about talking to people and following up. And know what networking is. Networking is not only like having a discussion once and never following. Like if you network and you find someone, remember to follow up, remember to keep them updated, and hopefully they can become your mentors. This is part of like examples of academic Twitter. Like there's a whole Twitter feed of how to write a letter of recommendation. There's like application of how to write a personal statement and like information on what a personal statement should be. I can tell you as a person who does oncology and is fascinated with like being in like a hematology oncology, I cannot tell you how many times I've read the same opening paragraph for a personal statement. It's like, I became a doctor because someone so-and-so was diagnosed with cancer when I was blah, blah, blah. And it's not that it's not a bad story, but it's how you put it differently so that you can be, like, we can remember who you are. So be creative, use your personal statement as a way to show your different story. I don't want to know your CV, you're telling me your CV, but you can highlight certain personalities in your personal statement. And this is an opportunity to do so. And the last one is mentorship. So mentorship is the most important factor for any person at any level of their career in academic medicine. I think that there are different types of mentors. There are mentors from your own institution. So I can tell you that when I was thinking about applying for a residency in the US, there was someone who was a semester ahead of me, and that person helped me navigate like the specifics of how to do this. There are peers that were, when I was in internal medicine, the third-year residents were already thinking about applying. And I actually asked them, like, well, what do you think I should know at this level of my career? Where should I start? And like, don't forget that people, regardless if they're still like like if you're doing an observership and this is the intern, don't forget that they might have some advice. So be open to whatever advice that people may have, and also like seek their mentorship and follow up. So don't forget that other international medical graduates have a lot of experience. So if you're looking into neurology, try to figure out who are the neurologists, like who has matched from neurology from your institution in the past 5 years, and try to track them down and say, like, what did they do? Where have they gone? Like, is there any programs that you should consider? How did they get the rotations? How did they get the letters and get advice? Your interns, residents, fellows, and your rotations. It's not like if you come here 2 years later, they might be the chief resident who is looking at your application. your professors, you do not need to have a mentor that is only in your field. I can tell you that I thought I wanted hematology, even though like from the beginning, like I knew that I wanted bone marrow transplant. But when I started residency, my mentor was a breast cancer oncologist. She was a director of the fellowship program, and she told me like, Alex, I know that you want hematology, but I can help you get a couple of publications. And I think that was the best thing that happened to me. You do not need to hyper focus so early on what you want to do. Like if you want to be like a surgeon specialized in only this type of surgery, that's great, but there will be time in your career where you become so specialized. If there's people that want to help you, like don't say no to them. People you through meet your networking. And like this is very important, like know how to be a good mentor. So mentors are not only there to give you advice, but they also want like it's a relationship that needs back and forth. So being a mentor is like making sure that they know you, making sure that you can trust, making sure that you have a relationship with them. So you need to know how to be a good mentor. There are many like articles of how to be a good mentor and how to be a good mentee. But for like when you start this process, think about a mentor as a person that you need to build a relationship. And you do not ask for favors before you even know the person. So if you come to a rotation and you're learning, like you're meeting, attending, and he's the attending who's going to be there for the next month that you're there, do not ask the first day that you're there for a letter of recommendation, or do not ask like, first show them who you are. First, like maybe before, like it's going to be very hard, or don't ask them right away for a research project. Like show them what like you can do in terms of clinical work. And maybe after a couple of days, you start getting to know each other a little bit better. And then you put the actual time to talk about what do they think like you should do in terms of research. And if later in that process, you can ask if they have research opportunities. So like learning how to get what you want from people is also a skill. So as you build your career and you get to know more people, like it's a longitudinal relationship. It's not a once and only type of relationship. Like it's not like after like every time is like I have meetings with people in different stages of their career, and it's not like after we meet one, then I'm your mentor. Or like if I meet my mentors, it's not like if I meet them once a year, they're my mentors. I meet my mentor every month. Some mentors I meet my clinical mentor every week. I still need to meet people who are more like in terms of career advancement every 3 months, but it needs to be a longitudinal process. And then like just final thoughts, like learn how to tell your story. Learn how to tell your story for your personal statement. I think I touched a little bit on it, like don't make it very generic, make it very personal. Know how to work with your ERA CV. I think that I can tell you that people in the US know how to sell themselves, and that's not the case for many people, for example, from Latin America. In Latin America, we're taught that you should be very respectful and not show too much because you don't want to be like you don't want to brag about you. Unfortunately, in the US, it's the opposite. People need to like show their story. And then I'm amazed about how people put things in their CV. There's a person who says, I was in a rural clinic, and like the international graduate can say, like, I participated in a rural clinic where where I was part of a team that saw 100 patients that day. The student from the US will probably say, like, I was selected among 100 applicants to go to this one clinic where I was in charge of seeing like 80 patients, where I did the whole history and the physical. And then I did 5, like, I don't know, well child exams, and I did this. And because of that, I was able to go into the next thing. So it doesn't mean that either of them is wrong, but know that who you're competing against. And part of their, like, it's important that your CV, like the actual, like your actual statement of what you do needs to be in the correct way so that other people can get different ideas. It's not good if you tell me I did PPCR. You should tell, like, I did PPCR, and in this course I learned how to do this, and I learned how to do this, and I learned how to do this. So know how to tell your story in different settings. And it's just another skill for your career. Even when you're doing your interview, you need to know what your speech is. Know how you, like, everyone is going to tell you, like, tell me a little bit about yourself, and know that you have those very important moments to learn how you sell yourself. And everyone is going to tell me, like, ask me what you learned when you did this research. So know how you're going to get the right skill sets to show. So with that, it's been a lot of talking. I think that there are a lot of resources online of how to apply for the US, like how to apply for a residency in the US. I think with that, like, I just want to open this for questions. I think people have specific questions about concerns or ideas, and like, I'm very happy just to talk to you guys and get to know what you think.
Great talk as always, Alex. Any question, guys? I haven't seen any. I keep adding some comments there for the group. But please, students and PPCR alumni, if you can come and ask your question live, or you can also chat, put them in the chat so we can get them. And Alex and Caio.
I have a question. Hi, nice to meet you. I'm Edith. I did PPCR like 2 years ago, and now I'm a TA. I have a question regarding the research, especially in the part that you said that some of the research takes a lot of time, because I also did a lot of animal research and basic science. So my question is, when you, let's say you submitted a paper and it's not been published yet, but it's going through multiple edits, can you still put that paper on your CV? And if so, where would you put that?
That's a great question, Rita. So first of all, everything you do, you should show it. So if you actually download the ERS CV, there's something called like research experience and something like publications. So in your research experience, you can have a whole paragraph about what you've been doing for this paper. You can say, like, I designed this project, I did this, this manuscript has been undergoing like multiple reviews, and it's currently under review in this journal. So if you like that research in progress paragraph, you can use it to tell your story. And this is what I mean. You have to know how to tell your story. So don't tell me you have a publication pending. Tell me what you did in that publication. The actual references, when you do your CV in ERS, there's going to be like list of publications. If something is submitted, you can put it there as submitted. If something is under review, you can put it there and say under review in parentheses. If you're working and it's not yet even submitted, usually you just put it in your research skills.
Okay, got it. And the same applies for, let's say, if you do a poster presentation, even though if you were not, let's say, the one that actually presented the poster, but you were in charge of doing like the poster, like the entire research, you still get to put that under where. Both. Oh, on both?
Yeah. So in your research skills, you're gonna say like, I was involved in this project, and in this project I did this, and I was involved in this. And this project is now presented as a poster. And in the poster section, you presented and you put all the authors, and you put yourself in the second, third, fourth author, and you just put it there. So as long as your name is there, you can put it both ways.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
I can tell you that most people have the same questions, so don't be afraid to ask.
Yes. They put Melanie asked, where do you think the best place for the PPCR course is in the ERAS CV? Or research experience?
So I put it in education. I think that I listed as a postgraduate course, and I put how many AMA credits. I think that by my time it had credits. I think it was like 125 AMA credits, and I posted as an educational experience. In like the research experience, I put it again more like I have training in statistics and in study design and study conduct, and I just put it there. Can we share a CV model with you in order to get suggestions? I won't say I won't like review your CV personally for everyone, but there are other people that can do, and there are online like versions of CVs to do ERAS. ERAS CVs are different for applying as an intern, like when I apply for my fellowship and when I apply for my advanced fellowship, but there are CV models, and there are a lot of publications online that are designed for medical students. So I can tell you that there are many examples of how you do your ERAS CV.
Great. Let me see if we got another question here. No, they're saying just thank you for your presentation, that you gave them a lot of ideas that they didn't think about before. Nothing else. Anyone else? Any questions, guys? Profit the time. Okay, there. Pedro have one. You said that during your career, at some point, you were sure that you wanted to go into hematology, and still you were in research for oncology, and that was worth it. In the perspective of internal medicine application, would it also be worth it to work in research in neurology?
Yes, I think that there's many different, like, it's all about the mentor. I keep saying mentorship is the most important thing. So look, if you tell me a good story, maybe you say, I don't know, I can tell you one recently. I was reviewing an application of someone who was a neurology applicant and decided to switch to internal medicine because he decided to become an oncologist, because he had a patient with CAR-T that had horrible neurotoxicity, but he had a lot of experience in neurology. So when you write your CV ERAS, like maybe you say like, look, I started thinking I wanted to do neurology and then switch to internal medicine. Or if it's not true, then you say like, I joined this project because it had this types of like cool things and I really wanted to know. And I think that going forward, I think I can apply these cool skills in like other things. So it's how you tell your story more than anything. I think that it was great for me to do breast cancer research when I was in internal medicine. When I become a hematology oncology fellow applying for bone marrow transplantation, then I stopped doing general hematology oncology research and then did more like heme research. But I can tell you that during my advanced fellowship, when I was doing stem cell transplant, even though I knew that I wanted to do more leukemia research and more leukemia transplant, my mentor at Memorial was like a huge myeloma person. And I just ended up doing like a big project for a myeloma transplant. And I think I still got a lot of the skill sets. So I didn't comment, I usually do, but be very mindful in what you say yes. Don't overcommit. So if you're gonna do something, make sure that you do it. And make sure that you have, doesn't matter that you cannot have 2-3 projects at the same time if you manage them correctly, but don't be the type of person that's gonna say yes to whatever they offer because you're not gonna be able to follow. But if you want to do neurology research, and even if you're applying to internal medicine, I can tell you there are many ways that you can link those together for your story. As long as you're interested and the research is interesting and you're getting good, like it's a good time for your investment.
Also, I believe that it's important that they profit the opportunity, right? They won't offer the opportunity, and that's also that you're showing that the PIs or the lab won't offer the opportunity unless that you are good. So it's showing that you have a good character, that they trust you and they know that you will advance.
Mm-hmm.
So it tells something about you.
Correct.
I also check for the institution, of course, but every opportunity that you might get, if you believe that you would like it and that you might gain more skills because that's the idea, then take it.
I think it. And don't be afraid to say no too. If you're not sure, think about it. You don't have to commit right away. Say like, thank you so much for this opportunity. Let me think about it. Talk to other of your mentors and know if it's okay. It's okay to say no. People will also value for that.
Then Juan asks you, can you still match into a good residency program with a year of a couple of years just focus on research without clinical rotation experience?
So I would say yes, but like, don't forget that this era CVs all the little things that you have to fill. So I have a lot of people that come to the US and do 3 years of research. That's amazing. But you're still gonna, like, you're gonna have one of your letters is gonna be from your research. But if you're internal medicine, for example, they still want you to have good clinical skills. So at some point during that 3-year rotation, you can start shadowing someone in clinic so that you have a letter from a clinical mentor. Right? Do not like, the point is, don't forget that all this CV needs to be filled and tell a story. So yes, you can match into a very good residency program, but you will need very good letters of recommendation. And your letters of recommendation cannot be only from research. So maybe one of them needs to be clinical or.
Great. And then another question is for you and me. They said that if we know great neurology mentors from the PPCR network. So beginning with Afraini, right, who has a neuromodulation lab and who is a neurologist too. And Melanie, if you're interested, let me know. We can talk about that. And I don't know if Alex know any other neurologist.
I know people who have matched, but I would really start with people from your institution and like people who have matched from your institution usually, and then get it from there. I think I have one person from neurology that he's already like in doing an advanced fellowship, but there are people who can definitely. Any other questions? Louise, I think your hand's up if I'm seeing it correct.
Thank you. Thank you, Alexandra, for sharing your experience. Can you hear me well? Awesome. Well, currently I starting to getting involved into research, specifically in clinical research, as I am interested in a very specific field that requires both knowledge of neurology and neurosurgery. And that's why I got enrolled into PPCR. My main focus and my main interest right now is into the research part more than into the clinical part. But as this BCI's technology that I am interested in requires at some point a huge part of neurosurgery, I'm not completely sure, but in the future I still have like a I don't know, I will consider in the future to do a neurosurgery residency. But I am like one of my concerns is if I haven't been involved in the clinical part of medicine, for example, in the last 3-4 years, is that a problematic for applying to a residency? I have been told before that many institutions take that into account, like if you haven't been involved in the clinical side of medicine for a few time, that will impact their decision.
So it's usually like they say like more than 5 years outside the like clinical part, it's gonna be like not completely off, but a red flag. But if you're applying to neurosurgery, it's gonna be, as I showed you, a lot of special, like people match into neurosurgery, but they have a very special track. Like you have to have the clinical research, you have to have the most amazing mentors, because the people who match in neurology, neurosurgery, dermatology, radiation oncology, they get into the program because after spending a couple of years working in research, they got the most amazing mentors that are going to advocate for them regardless and relentlessly. And you're going to be like the minority of people. I'm not here to crush anyone's dreams, and I think it's possible. I show you that there are 12 people that match to neurosurgery from international medical graduates from last year, but you're going to have to find that special mentor and find a special way to get you there. So the research, sure, hopefully, as you're finding your mentor, and also join them in clinic, and then you can have clinical experience and also research experience so that you don't forget any of the little parts of the application.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, I unfortunately have to leave, but thank you so much for the invitation.
Thank you again, Ale, for all your time and all your help and guidance to the students. Amazing how you explain all the steps. And remember, guys, that the most important thing is your effort. Don't believe that just one road, just like Alex explained, will lead you to the success. You always have to keep trying and finding all these opportunities that Alex mentioned, like the mentorship. What should you do? Gain skills, find facilities or resources, and many other things that you should be doing. Besides preparing really well for the exams, as you know, is one of the main things that they check. Also, the research and publication, right? And I haven't talked to Ali about this, but right now you can do 3 publications in PPCR, not just one. We got a mini review also, Alex, like a systematic review. And also they're going to work on a group project, a data analysis project based on open access databases. So they also can have that opportunity this year. So again, it would depend on how you push in the program, what you would like to do. We give you options to do it. You got guidance, you got the TAs, the faculty. So profit out that opportunity to make publication and also learn in the process. And it's really for us, it's really important that we push you to the limit and that you can also profit that opportunities to learn how to do research and apply all that you're learning here in PPCR. So we're going to see you on this Thursday. Thank you again. And again, Alex, wonderful, wonderful talk. It's a pleasure to see you. Hope to meet you soon in person. And great. Any final comments to the group?
No, I think it's just like, don't forget, it's a dream. Everyone just, but it's a process. Don't forget to live your life. Like, regardless what you do, this is part of life. It took me 15 years for first year of medicine to getting to an attending, 15. And it's just life. So enjoy it, make it the best, and don't always think about the next step. Always enjoy where you are right now, what you can get. It's doable, absolutely. Millions of people do it every year. So good luck.
Great. So thank you, Alex, again. Have a good evening, everyone. And we're gonna see you tomorrow in the office hours, and then on Thursday during the lecture. Bye-bye.